28 people died in house fires last year in New Zealand, and without smoke alarms that number would be a lot higher. But new research shows that a different sounding smoke alarm would wake more people up and could save even more lives. Australian researchers have found that a different alarm tone is at least 7 times more likely to wake you up when it goes off. Professor Dorothy Bruck of Victoria University in Melbourne has been leading the study, which is about to be published in the Journal of Sleep Research. We've just heard the traditional tone. What's wrong with that sound?
Well, there are two things wrong with it. One, it's very high pitch, and there are a number of reasons why that's not so good. And the second reason is because it's a very pure tone. It's just got a single big bump, big spectral profile at the 3,000 hertz. And we know that complex sounds are much better, and also lower frequency sounds are much better.
So essentially we're talking about the frequency is wrong. Is it as simple as that?
The frequency and the complexity. So the frequency profile is wrong.
Right, and frequency, when we break that down, is sort of a wavelength, isn't it? It's a sort of an up and down thing that...
And it's pitch, really, it's being very high versus being very low.
Okay, so it's too high?
Yes, it's too high, and it's a simple, pure tone. And the complex sounds, we've actually, the hypothesis is that it stimulates more of the relevant nerve in the ear. And so the sound sounds louder, even though it's actually not louder when you measure it by a sound meter. And the other good property of a lower frequency sound is that it penetrates walls and doors and things better than a high frequency sound.
Okay, well, here is the lower frequency sound, and this sound, we'll just play it. This is the one that's more effective. Now, you've researched this, haven't you?
Yes, well, we sort of came across it by chance, really, and now we've done a lot of studies with this sound and comparing it to lots of other sounds. And most importantly, we've done it in what we call high-risk groups. Now, the important thing to remember is that if you've got the smoke alarm, the current smoke alarm, in your bedroom, and you're not impaired in any way, not with hearing and not with alcohol and not sleep-deprived, you are going to wake up. But if you've got the smoke alarm in the hallway, which most people do and which is in Australia what's required by the building code, then you close your bedroom door or you have it ajar, and the volume that you're going to hear it at your pillow dramatically reduces. Now, if you've got any risk factor at all, like a bit of alcohol, lots of people over 60 have high-frequency hearing loss. If you're a child, if you're on sleeping tablets, if you're a shift worker and you're sleep-deprived, lots of those sort of things put people at risk. Then there is a reduced chance that you will wake up to the current high-pitched smoke alarm.
And what's the reduction? I'm giving an idea of numbers between the original one, the one that we have today, versus this new one, this lower frequency.
For children, they're 12 times more likely to wake up to our new alternative sounds than to the high-pitched sound. And for adults, depending on what condition it is, it's at least 7 times, but it could be higher. What we're advocating is that the signal change to be what we call a 520 hertz square wave. Now, there's been some very interesting developments just this week in the United States where it's looking increasingly likely that they will mandate our alternative signal for all commercial sleeping areas to be introduced by 2014.
So we're going to be moving to the sound, and let's play it one more time. Hold on one sec. We're going to be moving to this sound, it sounds like. In America, that's now been mandated.
No, not quite. There's a recommendation that it be mandated for introduction in 2014.
So why is it taking this long? I mean, we're in a high-tech, the technology's been here, smoke alarms have been pushed very, very intensely in most developed countries. Why have we got the signal so wrong?
Well, they didn't take much notice of the signal when they were putting it together. They spent a lot of time on the detection of the smoke and heat, and they had this little piezo siren, and it was small and it was high pitched, and it ran off a battery, and it was very convenient. And you listen to it, and everybody thinks that would wake them up straight away. But the reason why they're waiting to 2014, if in fact this does get mandated, it's not there yet. It's just a recommendation that's going forth, to the final sort of committee. The manufacturers say, there's quite a lot of technological development that they need to develop to make it a cost-effective change. You don't want people suddenly have to pay $100 for a smoke alarm. You want to make it as cost-effective as possible, as cheap as possible, so that it's going to be widely implemented. So there needs to be advances made on making the unit fairly small, because you need a bigger speaker to produce a lower sound.
Right, so there's more cost associated with making this lower frequency.
Well, certainly at the moment there is. But
the evidence is pretty compelling. I mean, the fact that adults are 7 times more likely to hear that sound than the traditional one. I mean, I'm afraid...
At least 7 times. That's the absolute minimum, at least 7 times. And children 12 times.
So, I mean, that, as I say, that's pretty impressive and compelling evidence for this frequency to be used today.
Yes.
How do you think this is going to be used by the Australian authorities? And I'm thinking also the New Zealand authorities. I mean, this very much puts this on the agenda today, doesn't it, as an important issue that could save lives as we speak? Well,
yes. If America adopts these recommendations, then the next move is for it to be adopted by the International Standards Organisation. And I know the Australian Standards Organisation has been communicating with the International Standards Organisation about our research and about how important it is. So if the ISO, the international group, makes the changes, then I think we can be pretty assured that it will be introduced in Australia and New Zealand fairly quickly.
Did you research the fact that people have different tolerances to sound, i.e. to being woken up at different stages of their sleep pattern?
Yes, we did. We always woke people in the deepest stage of sleep. We controlled for that. But one of our early studies and some studies by other people do look at different stages of sleep. And what's interesting is that you have your deepest stages of sleep in the first third of the night, and that's when most fire fatalities occur, in the first 3 hours of the sleeping period. So that's when people are most likely to be in their deep sleep.
Professor Dorothy Bruck of Victoria University in Australia. Well, back here in New Zealand, the Fire Service says it's aware of Professor Bruck's research and is taking it seriously. But even though it welcomes technological advances from overseas, it's confident that the smoke alarms on the market here are still doing a good job. And of course, it goes without saying that having any sort of working smoke alarm is better than not fitting one at all.